Ok, bonjour tout le monde. Avec le secrétaire Pompeo, j'ai discuté de la situation au Venezuela et de ce que nous pouvons continuer à faire pour soutenir le peuple du Venezuela. Nous avons également discuté du processus de ratification de l'ALENA et surtout des détentions arbitraires de Michael Kovrig et Michael Spavor. Hier, j'ai également rencontré l'ambassadeur Lighthizer pour discuter de nos processus de ratification respectifs. Et plus tard, j'ai discuté avec le membre du Congrès, Kevin Brady, et d'autres républicains de la Chambre du processus de ratification du nouvel accord de libre-échange nord-américain. Aujourd'hui, j'ai rencontré le sénateur Bob Menendez, haut responsable du comité sénatorial des relations extérieures, comité sénatorial des finances. J'ai aussi discuté avec mes collègues américains les préparations que le Canada fait pour la conférence sur les réformes en Ukraine. So it has been 2 busy and productive days in Washington. Yesterday, I met with Secretary Pompeo. We discussed many issues, including the situation in Venezuela, countries, and of course the arbitrary detentions of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. I had a very good meeting with Ambassador Lighthizer. We chiefly spoke about the ratification process in our respective countries of the new NAFTA. I also met with Kevin Brady and a group of congressional Republicans to talk about NAFTA ratification. And then today I've had meetings with Senator Menendez. We talked about a number of international issues, including Venezuela, Ukraine, China. And then I had a very good meeting with Senator Chuck Grassley. I thanked him for his really hard work on getting the 232 tariffs lifted. And we spoke about the NAFTA ratification process in our 2 countries. I've also had discussions here with our American counterparts about preparations for the Ukraine Reform Conference, which Canada will host in Toronto next month. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
What do you think of, Jacques Chaz, in case I can't project my voice well enough. Jacques Chaz has said that apparently he's telling business groups that he thinks would be a good idea if Canada just withdrew these charges against Meng Wanzhou, to get China to stop stomping on us or whatever. Do you think that would be a good idea? Would that set a good precedent to kind of give in to this sort of bullying?
I like your leading question, Adrian. So look, let me start by saying that Prime Minister Chrétien is a really great Canadian. He is someone with whom I have spoken often, especially since the election. And as foreign minister, I have reflected a lot on what I think is one of his truly great decisions, which was the decision for Canada not to participate in the war in Iraq. It's a decision I've always admired, but since beginning to do this job, I have had a better sense than you can have when you don't do this job of how difficult it must have been to make that decision. And history has shown Prime Minister Chrétien to have been absolutely right. Having said that, on this particular issue, my view, our government's view, continues to be as follows. When it comes to the extradition request for around Ms. Meng, Canada has very carefully and intentionally abided by our extradition treaty commitments. We are a rule of law country, and rule of law is not something you can pick and choose. Either you are a rule of law country or you are not. When it comes to Ms. Meng, there has been no political interference. This has been entirely about officials taking decisions according to Canada's commitments, and that is the right way for extradition requests to proceed. As Canadians know very well, her case is now before the courts. That is where they should be. She has excellent lawyers and full access to Canada's due process, which is also absolutely right and correct. I have tremendous faith and confidence in Canadian courts. Ms. Meng and her lawyers will have a chance to make their case, and I have complete confidence that the courts will make a right and fair decision. I'd also like to say on this particular issue that as a country, as a government, we need to be very thoughtful and very mindful of precedents that our actions and our decisions set. And I think when we reflect on it, it will be clear to all of us that it would be a very dangerous precedent indeed for Canada to alter its behavior when it comes to honoring an extradition treaty in response to external pressure. And I think when we think about the implications of setting such a precedent, we could easily find ourselves in a situation where, by acting in a single specific case, we could actually make all Canadians around the world less safe. And that is a responsibility that I take very seriously. Thank you.
If I could just follow up on Adrian's question. So you've closed the door on Prime Minister Chrétien's proposal to cancel the extradition, but are you open to having him as a special envoy to China?
That is really a decision for the Prime Minister. As I said, I have tremendous respect for Prime Minister Chrétien, for some of the remarkable things he did as Prime Minister. And I really believe in learning from our elders. I think that's something that I try to do. I have a real respect for all former Canadian Prime Ministers, and I try to talk to all of them. When it comes to China, this is a really difficult situation, and our government's priority, and this was very much reflected in the conversations I have been having over the past 2 days, is the welfare of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. They are arbitrarily detained. I am in really close touch with their families. I get the consular reports. I do want to say about them personally that I just have tremendous respect for both of them. Each one is conducting himself with real grace, with real dignity, showing tremendous resilience in difficult circumstances. I want them to know, and our diplomats share this with them in the consular visits, that they are top of mind for our whole government, for the Prime Minister, for me. We raise them in all appropriate meetings. We're going to continue to do that. And I do want to say one more thing, which is just to say how deep my sympathy is for the Kovrig and Spavor families. I think all of us can imagine how difficult this situation is for them, and those two families are also behaving with tremendous grace, with tremendous resilience.
Madame Freeland, donc il en sera question nécessairement lors de cette rencontre entre M. Trudeau, M. Trump, de ce dossier-là. Qu'est-ce que le président Trump peut faire, outre laisser tomber la demande d'extradition entre les États-Unis et le Canada?
Je pense que c'est une question pour le président Trump, mais merci pour la question. Et on a annoncé aujourd'hui que dans une semaine, le Premier ministre sera ici pour une visite avec le président. J'ai aussi discuté la visite. Nous avons commencé de travailler sur les enjeux qu'on va discuter avec le secrétaire Pompeo et aussi avec l'ambassadeur Lighthizer. Je pense que ce sera une visite importante. Ce sera la première fois que le président et le Premier ministre seront ensemble après le lever des tarifs de 132. Et je pense que c'est très bon qu'ils auront une opportunité de discuter beaucoup d'enjeux. Les processus de ratification du nouvel ALENA, évidemment, mais aussi on va discuter la situation en Venezuela, on va discuter l'Ukraine et on va discuter la Chine et on va continuer le travail que j'ai fait aujourd'hui et hier concernant la situation de Michael Kovrig et Michael Spavor.
Je comprends que vous ne pouvez pas parler pour eux, pour les Américains, mais quelles sont vos attentes? Comment les Américains, le président Trump en particulier, pourraient-ils vous aider? On sait que les contacts sont difficiles entre le Canada et la Chine. On en a eu des rappels. Est-ce que, par exemple, M. Trump pourrait vous aider en rencontrant le président chinois au G20 dans l'éventualité où il n'y aurait pas de rencontre entre M. Trudeau et M. Xi?
Comme j'ai dit, je suis certaine que les deux leaders vont discuter la Chine et qu'ils vont discuter les détentions arbitraires de Michael Kovrig et Michael Spavor. Nous encourageons tous nos partenaires, tous nos alliés, et je le fais encore une fois aujourd'hui et hier, de soulever la situation de Michael Kovrig et Michael Spavor dans toutes ces conversations avec les Chinois. Je veux souligner le fait qu'un grand groupe de pays, un grand groupe de nos partenaires ont publiquement soulever cet enjeu. C'est l'Australie, l'Union européenne, la France, l'Allemagne, la Grande-Bretagne, les États-Unis, les Pays-Bas, la Latvie, Lettonie, l'Estonie, l'Espagne, le Danemark, l'OTAN et le G7. Et ce sont seulement les pays qui ont publiquement soulevé cet enjeu. Il y a un plus grand groupe des pays, nos alliés, qui ont soulevé l'enjeu dans ces conversations privées avec la Chine. Et les États-Unis est un de ces pays. Je pense que le fait que le Canada a réussi en organisant une si grande coalition des pays est un moment important et nous allons continuer ce travail.
Minister Freeland, you've said that you'd like to move Canada's USMCA CUSMA bill in tandem with the United States to the greatest extent possible. Did you learn anything during your trip here that would supplement that reflection?
Well, I learned a lot of things on the trip here, and it has been really useful to get a lot of different, much more detailed perspectives on how the domestic ratification process is working in the United States. And our American partners were very interested in a great level of detail about how the Canadian domestic ratification process will work. I found myself explaining what a writ is, exactly how our Senate works, etc. So I think there's a lot of mutual interest in our legislative processes and the ratification, and that's a good thing. We are moving ahead. And I do also want to emphasize this is a conversation we're having with Mexico. Earlier this week, I had a very good conversation over the phone with Marcelo Ebrard, the Mexican foreign minister. So all three countries are coordinating with each other. The conversations I had today, including with Senator Grassley just now, have been really helpful. I think it's been helpful also for our American partners to understand better the Canadian process, to understand how clear and strong the Canadian intent is to move forward with NAFTA ratification. So we were able to communicate that. And, I feel after the meetings that we've had today and yesterday, very comfortable with our approach, which is we are moving ahead with NAFTA ratification. Second reading began this week. I gave a speech in the House, moving things forward. So we're moving ahead. I think we're on the right track. And I think it is absolutely the right approach for Canada to intend to move in tandem with our partners, especially with the U.S. The conversations we had, really detailed ones today and yesterday, are really helpful in that effort. And that is another reason why it's going to be so valuable for the Prime Minister to be here next week to continue those conversations.
Do you anticipate that Canada will pass it before the Canadian Senate goes out for the summer?
Our plan is, as we have said, we have begun our legislative process. We've actually taken now a number of steps and we've had some votes. I am very pleased that we have had strong support, not only from our government, but from the opposition in support of this legislation. To me, that shows that this really is a good deal, a win-win-win. And our plan is to move forward in tandem with the U.S. We think of it as a kind of Goldilocks approach, not too hot, not too cold. We're not going to go too fast. We're not going to go too slow. It does mean we are going to be spending a lot of time talking with our American counterparts to get that pacing right. And I do want to say our excellent ambassador is here, David McNaughton. The embassy is working extremely hard on this issue and spending a lot of time on the Hill, meeting with Democrats, with Republicans, both to help people understand here how the Canadian legislative process works, and also to get a better understanding of where the U.S. is and where individual members of Congress, senators are.
So then you would expect them to adjourn before they actually vote on this, and then to be recalled back to vote if the U.S. moves forward?
So I didn't say that quite intentionally. Our plan is, as I have said, we're moving ahead with NAFTA ratification. Our government, and for American colleagues, let me remind you, we have a majority in Parliament, has a clear and very confident intention to move ahead with NAFTA ratification. This is a good deal for Canada, and we will get it done. We will get it ratified. Our intention, insofar as possible, is to move in tandem with the U.S. legislative process. That obviously is not something that we can control, but we're working hard to have a very good, robust conversation with our American colleagues, first and foremost Ambassador Lighthizer, who's in charge here, but also to develop a sort of nuanced understanding of the positions of people on the Hill.
Have you gotten any reassurances from your U.S. counterparts or U.S. lawmakers that it will be possible to move forward with USMCA ratification in tandem before the federal elections are called? And if that can't happen, would Canada consider moving forward with ratification before the U.S.?
So I'm going to, that question about the pace and timing in the U.S., I'm afraid, is a question for my American counterparts, and I'll leave it to them to speak to their own domestic ratification process.
Just given that China isn't taking meetings with senior people in the Canadian government, how can you reopen those lines of communication?
Well, let me emphasize there is definitely clear communication on a number of different levels. Our diplomats in China meet with Chinese authorities. My officials in Canada meet with Chinese diplomats in Canada. We've also had a lot of conversations between different Canadian political leaders. My parliamentary secretary, Rob Oliphant, was recently in China and had some good meetings and communicated the Chinese position clearly. So I want people to understand that there is, of course, I would say actually a very energetic conversation happening. I think we all know each other's positions, and we continue to speak about those positions. And I do also want to say these arbitrary detentions of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor are a grave concern to Canada. And that has made our relations with China today difficult. Having said that, this is a relationship which is deep. It is a relationship of long standing. It is a relationship on many different levels, touching many Canadians, many Chinese people. So, I also have confidence that the relationship will endure. Okay, I have a plane to catch. Thank you very much.
Quelque chose en anglais, par exemple, vous avez parlé du précédent que ça pourrait créer la question de l'extradition, de ne pas le respecter pour le Canada. Vous pouvez revenir juste brièvement là-dessus en français?
Ok. Alors, concernant le processus d'extradition et l'approche de notre gouvernement, je veux souligner que le Canada est un pays des règles et du droit. Le Canada est un pays qui est fidèle aux ses accords internationaux, incluant les accords concernant l'extradition. Le processus d'extradition ne doit pas être politisé. Ce n'est pas un processus politique, c'est un processus judiciaire, c'est un processus légal. Et dans ce cas, notre gouvernement n'a pas politisé ce processus. Les décisions qui étaient prises au niveau des fonctionnaires pour être fidèles à notre système des règles et des droits. Aujourd'hui, le cas de Madame Meng est avant les cours. Maintenant, c'est entré dans le processus judiciaire. Et c'est très important pour nous, les politiciens, d'avoir du respect pour l'indépendance de nos cours. Et je veux aussi dire que les cours, les juges canadiens sont excellents, ils sont impartiels. Tout le monde, tous les Canadiens, mais aussi tout le monde peut avoir beaucoup de confiance dans notre système. Et au bout de ligne, je veux ajouter que quand nous faisons des décisions, nous devons toujours penser des précédents que nous pouvons créer. Je pense que ça peut être très dangereux pour le Canada comme un pays, mais aussi pour tous nous les Canadiens, de créer un précédent dans lequel le Canada a changé ses actions politiques dans un cas d'extradition à cause de pression. Je pense qu'un précédent de ce genre peut mettre en danger tous les Canadiens en étranger. Merci beaucoup.